Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about the most devastating punchers in the history of boxing, one name echoes louder than thunder: George Foreman. A man of biblical power, a force of nature in human form, and a heavyweight who struck fear into opponents with every punch he threw. Today, we relive the career, highlights, and greatest knockouts of a man who many consider the best puncher of all time. This isn't just a highlight reel. It's the story of how George Foreman rose from humble beginnings to heavyweight champion, how he unleashed one of the most feared knockout streaks in boxing history, and how, against all odds, he shocked the world with one of the greatest comebacks in sports. So sit back, because this is not just boxing history. This is George Foreman. George Foreman's boxing journey began after a troubled childhood in Houston, Texas. Boxing became his way out of the streets, his path to discipline, and his ticket to greatness. By the time he entered the professional ranks after winning Olympic gold in 1968, people already knew this was not an ordinary fighter. Foreman's early fights were exhibitions of raw, destructive power. He wasn't a slick mover like Muhammad Ali or a defensive wizard like Floyd Mayweather. No, George Foreman came to destroy. With tree trunk arms and the kind of jab that felt like a right hand for most men, Foreman quickly built a reputation as a wrecking ball in the heavyweight division. His rise was merciless. Fight after fight ended in knockouts. His punches didn't just land, they crushed. Opponents would crumble under the weight of his blows, often unable to make it past the early rounds. One of Foreman's most memorable highlights came against Jerry Cooney. Cooney, known as a hard-hitting contender himself, was seen as a dangerous challenge. But against George Foreman, danger was a two-way street. The fight didn't last long. From the opening bell, Foreman stalked Cooney like a predator closing in on its prey. He unleashed a vicious left uppercut, followed by a crushing left hook that left Cooney reeling. Seconds later, a thunderous right hand finished the job. Cooney collapsed under the relentless onslaught, unable to rise. The referee waved it off, and George Foreman stood tall once again, proving that even the most feared punchers could not withstand his power. Then came Jimmy Ellis, a skilled boxer with quick hands and experience. But Foreman didn't care about skill, he cared about damage. From the start, Foreman's jab snapped Ellis's head back like a rag doll. A left hook staggered him, an uppercut nearly lifted him off the canvas, and a right hand to the chin left Ellis helpless against the ropes. Ellis tried to fight back, but Foreman's punches broke through every defense. Finally, referee Richard Steele had seen enough. Ellis stood dazed, taking shot after shot, unable to defend himself. The fight was stopped, and once again, George Foreman's fists wrote the ending. What made George Foreman so terrifying wasn't just that he knocked people out. It was honestly how he knocked them out. He didn't need perfect form. He didn't need blazing speed. He simply imposed his will with brute force. His jab was as hard as most fighters' power shots. His uppercut was like a wrecking ball swinging from below. And when Foreman threw combinations, left, right, left, each punch carried the weight of a sledgehammer. Fighters often said being hit by Foreman felt like being hit with a baseball bat. Others described it as car accidents in the ring. That's the legacy of his power. Fast forward to the 1990s. After retiring in the late 70s, Foreman shocked the world by returning to boxing in his 40s. Most thought it was just a publicity stunt, a middle-aged man chasing lost glory. But Foreman proved otherwise. In 1991, at 42 years old, he faced the undefeated heavyweight champion, Evander Holyfield. Experts said Foreman would get embarrassed, that he was too slow and too old. But inside the ring, George Foreman gave Holyfield one of the toughest fights of his career. Foreman landed crushing uppercuts, looping right hands, and body shots that made the young champion respect him. The crowd roared every time Foreman connected. Holyfield won the decision, but Foreman had proven something: age could not erase power. That fight, honestly, reignited Foreman's legend. He wasn't just back, he was dangerous. The defining moment of Foreman's second career came in 1994. George Foreman, at 45 years old, stepped into the ring against the undefeated heavyweight champion, Michael Moorer. For 9 rounds, Moorer outboxed him. He was younger, faster, and winning easily on the scorecards. Most thought it was just a matter of time before the referee would stop it. But in round 10, history changed. Foreman calmly measured Moorer, waiting for the perfect opening. And then it came, a short, devastating right hand that landed flush on the chin. Moorer crumbled to the canvas, flat on his back, unable to move. The crowd erupted. The world was stunned. George Foreman had done the impossible. He was heavyweight champion of the world again, at 45 years old, becoming the oldest man ever to hold the title. That single punch cemented his legacy, not only as one of the hardest hitters in boxing history, but as a living legend who defied time itself. Foreman's career is a highlight reel of destruction, crushing Ron Lyle in a back-and-forth war filled with knockdowns, destroying Ken Norton in 2 rounds, a man who had gone the distance with Muhammad Ali 3 times, knocking down Joe Frazier 6 times in less than 2 rounds to win the heavyweight title in 1973, a performance that shocked the boxing world. Every fight was proof that George Foreman's fists carried a kind of power rarely seen before or since. George Foreman's story isn't just about knockouts. It's about reinvention, resilience, and redemption. After his shocking loss to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle, Foreman fell into depression, retired, and walked away from boxing. But years later, he returned, not just as a fighter, but as a new man, full of humility, humor, and faith. And when he regained the heavyweight title in his mid-40s, he inspired millions. His comeback was more than a sports story. It was a life story. Today, George Foreman is remembered not just as a champion, but as an icon. A man who embodied the raw, primal power of boxing. A man who proved that it's never too late to rise again. So, when we ask the question, who is the best puncher of all time? Many names come up. Mike Tyson, Deontay Wilder, Sonny Liston. But no discussion is complete without George Foreman. Because George Foreman wasn't just a puncher, he was a force of nature. His fists didn't just knock opponents out, they carved his name into the history of boxing forever. This has been the story of George Foreman, the knockout king, the comeback hero, the best puncher of all time.